This is our COVID Roundup and CDC update for May 2nd, 2025. Scrolling down and starting off, we look at our COVID variant nowcast estimates. And right now, LP8.1 is listed as leading all of the COVID variants. If we take a quick aside over to Raj's COVID variant tracker, we see that LP8.1 is no longer leading the charge, and this has been true for quite a while now. So LP8.1.1 has been the dominant variant. This is a subvariant of LP8.1. That's why there's another .1 after it. That one's making up about 45% of all variants by proportion. LP8.1 has dropped to about 17%. It was around 22% the last time we looked at it. So it's been going down. So this has been inaccurate as a representation for quite a while now, and it's very concerning that the CDC has not segmented LP8.1.1 out because it's been making up more than 1% of variants by proportion. So it should be listed here, and it should be shown as the actual dominant variant at this time. The one that is the next most interesting to look at is LF7.7.2, this purple, which has been growing quite rapidly. If we try and focus on it, the prior week it was around 4%. This current week it's sitting at about 6%. And the week prior it was sitting at about, if we can select it, 2%. So 246, that's a pretty fast growth rate. So why is LF 7.7.2 interesting? Well, when we look over to Mike Honey's projections for what variant might be driving the next wave, the leading contenders at this time are currently LF 7.7.2, NB 1.8.1, XFG, and XFJ. So if we look at these variants here on his tracker and blow that up, we see that LF7.7.2 is this orange, which has been increasing, so they're all pretty much equivalent. And then there's LP8.1.1 globally for reference, and all of these are increasing very quickly. So it's anyone's game at this point in terms of these four, but the one that's been popping up the earliest and the most frequently in the US and then also in Canada, if we can find that quickly. And then over in Canada, we see, so again, LP8.1.1 making up about 37% of all variants by proportion. And then of our interest here, LF7.7.2 is making up 5.3%. So it's been growing since January. My mistake, sorry about that. LF7.7.2 is the dark red one. So it's been growing since February. And then of note, so we looked over to the LF7.7.2, but the other one that seems to be popping up in the US is NB 1.8.1. So this orange color. It's been popping up in places like California, most predominantly in New York. And then there's also some occurrences in Minnesota, New Jersey, and Virginia. And then for the light green over here, we have some instances of XFJ also in New York, in Colorado, Oregon, Texas, and Vermont. And then just as an aside point, I think this is very important. So Mike Honey is also emphasizing this XFL variant, which is a quadruple recombinant variant, meaning it has evolutionarily 3 recombinant ancestors. So a recombinant variant is when you get infected with multiple COVID infections at the same time. Those 2 COVID variants then merge together, creating a brand new variant. And that's happened multiple times in multiple people. So that's very alarming because it's happened so fast in the same evolutionary line. And if we blow this up to kind of show you what this means, so first there was XEC, which was a recombinant of KP3.3 and KS1.1. Then the next recombinant was XEK, which is a recombinant of KP2.3 and XEC. So a single person had both of these infections, and then another person next in the vector chain had these 2 infections, and then the next one was XEU. So this is a combination of getting infected with XEK and XEC.8 at the same time, and then another person was infected with both XEU and XEC.18, which created XFL. So this is just showing like that we're literally letting COVID go unmitigated, unchecked, spreading, mutating as much as it wants to, as much as it can, much as it's able to, because it's not sentient. but we're like he's saying right here, we're giving this virus every single opportunity to evolve. And when you have unbroken chains like this, if they go on long enough, the virus eventually becomes highly dangerous again. It becomes something that can increase mortality. That's what we've seen if you have unbroken chains for like 12 different um, variant line or 12 different sequential infections. The mortality rate always goes up with something like that. So this is not good. This is showing that we're just like letting it happen, which can easily make COVID become much more deadly once more. And then, since we've been talking about the COVID variants, something I do want to emphasize is that their variant tracking is now 2 weeks behind. This is unusual. This usually updates every single reporting period with the new data. So, like their travel monitoring is now like almost a month behind. That's not normal. Um, the next thing, if we look over to the wastewater data, um, I really want to emphasize that we're not actually at low levels nationally, because if we go over to this map here and we clear it out, clear all selections, here we go. So if we look at the low data, there's only 287 sites that are at what we would consider low from their classification system. So there's about 1,200 samples. About 300 of those are at the quote unquote low level, which is 0 to 19% of the lowest levels ever recorded at those facilities. And everything else is at 20% or higher. So if we get rid of that and then we look at this, so all of these really light blue all over the place, so that would be at like a moderate level. And we have 40 to 59%, that would be like a low high. So the white ones here. So again, these are a very bad classification system because you can hardly see these on the map. Then we have the orange, which is like a mid-tier high. And then we have red, which is very high, and there's only one. And then we have no recent data, which is a lot of sites, which isn't even on this color coding map, which it should be, because that should tell you exactly how many numbers of data sites are not reporting. I guess it would be the subtraction from this number, so about 300. But I really just wanted to emphasize that this classification that they're using for the NWSS that I've been telling you is terrible, terrible, terrible. Well, they're saying, oh, we're at low levels nationally right now, but if we take out what we would consider low from the data, the vast majority of the data is not at low levels, showing that based off of what the data is showing, the raw data, this is a bad indicator. This is a bad classification system. And then if we look over to our New York State wastewater surveillance map, we see that there's a lot of data that's not reporting. 82 facilities are not currently reporting, which is nearly half of the facilities that are actually recording COVID wastewater surveillance data in New York. And all these facilities that are doing the lab transfer, it's been about a month and a half now. So this is a very long data transfer process occurring at a bad time. Because I think we've started our spring wave, or our quote-unquote summer wave. We've started that summer wave, and we can see that in New York, things are starting to tick upwards from the data that we do have access to, mostly over here in the west, and then over here in the Long Island region, the south of New York. And then if we look over to wastewater scan and the 28 reporting wastewater facilities to wastewater scan in California, we still have basically holding at a moderate level in California. And then if we look over to the 148 reporting wastewater facilities to wastewater scan across the US, we see that we're starting to have an increase in those levels, with one facility really taking off to very high levels. And if we zoom in to select on those a lot better, we see that the facility that's really taking off is in Maine, Bangor, Maine. And then we have West Boise, Idaho, and then Montpelier, Vermont, and Millbury, Massachusetts. Those are the 4 places that have the highest wastewater recordings for COVID right now, with again Bangor, Maine being the highest. And if we zoom out, we can get an indication of how high in their own relative facility that is. So I might have to scroll through it the old-fashioned way. Going to Maine. Here we go. So Bangor, Maine. So Bangor, Maine is actually at their highest levels that have ever been recorded at their wastewater facility since they started recording in about mid 2023. And that's our COVID Roundup and CDC update for May 2nd, 2025.